The PBA Summer Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Budweiser Beechwood Aged. For that clean, crisp taste, this Bud's for you. By HBO, simply the best. And by Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. Pizza Hut, making it great. Making his second appearance in the championship round, 25-year-old Billy Hall of Marion, Ohio, will begin tonight's finals by taking on 7-time PBA champion Dave Husted of Milwaukee, Oregon. The winner of that opening match will then face off against right-hander Ron Williams of Fort Worth, Texas. Making his third appearance in the championship round in the last 4 weeks, Dave Ferraro starts from the 2 slot, while 13-time PBA champion Pete Weber will be looking for his first tour victory of the year and $20,000 in first-place prize money. Welcome to Red Carpet Lanes, located in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for tonight's championship round finals of the $130,000 LaMode Classic. Hi, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Red Carpet Lanes, located in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where there are 2 major questions of concern this week. Will the Magic Man, Don Mikowski, sign a new deal with the Green Bay Packers, and will Pete Weber move back into the winner's circle after an absence of more than a year? Mike Durbin, what are his chances?
Well, Denny, I think his chances are pretty good. He says the reason he's been in a slump, and it's been more than a year that he's won, has been a physical problem, that he's been getting the ball into the push-away a little bit too soon, so he's moved it from down here to up here. He also says that he's been working on his knee position, keeping them bent throughout the approach. So we'll have to watch him tonight, Dan, and see if he does those things.
Over the past month, Dave Ferraro has spent more time on ESPN than you or I. This is the 3rd show in the last 4 weeks.
Well, not only that, but Dave last year made more money than any other player that didn't win a tournament. He had 5 seconds last year. He was the leader here last year and finished second. Tonight, he only needs to win 2 games to get his 6th title.
Our number 3 seed is a bit unorthodox, but Ron Williams is a dangerous championship round player.
And he won our opening telecast of the year this year. He's bowling well. Just missed the telecast last week. On it this week. We'll see what happens.
2 years ago, Dave Husted won in this bowling center. He could be a guy to watch this evening.
And what's interesting about Dave is last week he wasn't even entered in this tournament. He entered at the last minute. It may wind up in his 8th victory.
And each and every week we seem to have one player who is a newcomer to our telecast, and that's the case here this evening. It's a youngster in Billy Hall. His first match comes up next. He'll face off against Dave Husted of Milwaukee, Oregon. $20,000 on top this week. But before we get to the title game, we'll feature Hall and also Husted when we return to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Billy Hall and Dave Husted paired up in match number 1. Billy Hall earlier this year finishing 4th in El Paso, his second trip to the championship round. A very, very fine athlete.
He's a nice young bowler. The thing to watch about him is how far he gets the ball out on the lane, Dan. He gets it out there about 8 feet. There's a series of dots there out about 7 feet, and he throws them over that.
Boom. High in the pocket, 4 goes down, 9 with a little wiggle. And so, you know, in other words, if Manute Bol laid down at the foul line, Billy would be throwing it over Manute Bol.
Right. You think he would trust him?
Manute?
Yeah.
Manute is 7'6", so it wouldn't even be close.
Well, if I were Manute, though, I'd have the feet at the other end.
Opening spare attempt, no problem whatsoever for the young, strapping Billy Hall out of Marion, Ohio. Steve of Milwaukee, Oregon. Steady performer on the PBA National Tour, opens up with a pocket hit and leaves the soft 10.
And he's won the Nagy Award the last 2 years, Dan. He's Mr. Nice Guy on the PBA Tour.
Yeah, he'll shake your hand, smile at you, and then beat you in match play.
Right, yeah, he lures you right in. David going for the spare. Not switching balls, using the same ball. David, a 5-step player, holds the ball out there as he starts his approach, takes the first step, doesn't move it. Now it's like a 4-step approach. The ball's right in time, a little bit early, backswing over the head. Look at that pivot step, how high that backswing is. Now the nice long slide, the arm out for balance, and you see the lift as he comes through. Boy, it's a pretty shot there. How do you get the backswing that high, Dan?
Have to be supple. Tries to keep it on line. This one hooking a little early, leaves the 3-6.
And that seems to be the characteristic that we watched him practice. 15 hooking more than 16 here tonight. Difficult to master. I just know that I think that characteristic will evidence itself more as the telecast goes on.
And talking to Dave just prior to the start of the telecast, said the lanes were a touch tighter than ball, not hooking quite as much as it did throughout the week.
And what that usually means for the players is they tighten up the line. They don't cross as many boards, mainly because they can't, but they just try and keep a straighter line to the pocket. Seems like it would favor Dave Ferraro.
Average on lanes 15 and 16 throughout the week for Billy Hall, 222.7.
No trouble with this pair then.
Got out of that shot nice and clean, and an X is the result on lane 16.
Look at how far he holds the ball back. Starts right at the back of the approach. Now he steps with the left foot. He hasn't moved the ball. Pushes it out. Ball's perfectly in time. Hit the pivot step. Shoulder high backswing. Long slide. And whacks it at the end with that left arm out there for balance. It's a classic textbook game.
Funny, because I asked Billy, I said, do you always get the ball that far out in the lane? He said, no, I used to throw it further out than I do now.
Yeah, he's laying it down early now.
Setting it down short at about 10 feet. Out of it clean again. This time he's sliable, and his fiancée, Diane Keck, is appreciative of that effort.
And we were watching Billy last night in the position round game, and he was bowling Mike Edwards, and Edwards had a string of 5 or 6 in a row at him, and Billy Hall just came and responded with a turkey of his own, and came through in that
round out here if you don't bowl well in the position round. Meanwhile, Husted, with his first strike of the evening, still trails by 12.
And David Husted, just a veteran player. He's looked at a lot of strikes by opponents. See how the swing comes back, and now he loops it inside, right next to the ankle. See how far that left arm came back. Watch the 6-pin now. Second from the right. Just nudge that 10 out of there.
That's all it has to do. A little bit of a tap, down went the 10. Trying to double up, cut the match to 2. He liked it. And rightfully so. Husted storms back with a double. It's a 2-pin match here, the early stages of the $130,000.
Face the Dodgers Friday night live on ESPN. Baseball tonight.
And while we were away, a 10-pin of sorts on the right-hand lane for Billy Hall. No problem with the conversion.
Back to live action. Going high on the Brooklyn. Whoa. Says, okay, you left a 10-pin, but carry a Brooklyn. Just didn't get the ball out to where he wanted. Didn't look like he got out of it clean either. The ball was grabbing way too soon, but if you're going to make a mistake, make it big enough, Denny.
Ball hit at the arrows. Kind of hung up a little in that one. With that release, it would seem that you might do that from time to time. Meanwhile, Husted trying to apply some pressure, and you're right. The veteran comes back with the 3-bagger and says, all right, I've seen enough. Time to grab the lead.
And David just got his game face on tonight. Contrast in styles here, though. Both 5-step players, both fluid. I think that Billy Hall's just a little more rigid in his approach, and he gets the ball so much further out on the lane than Husted does. Although David gets it over the foul line, but not nearly as far.
Well, a little more swing to that shot, and a ringing 10-pin. You know, it's been a big, big week for Dave Husted, who was inducted into the Oregon State Bowling Association Hall of Fame, and he joins his father, Champ, in receiving that honor, and they become the first father and son team ever to be inducted into that Hall of Fame, so it's a special week.
Into the Hall of Fame. He's only 30 years of age. That's pretty quick.
Well, it'll be interesting if his young son, Corey, someday ends up in the Oregon State Bowling Hall of Fame, huh?
That would be really something, wouldn't it?
Well, I know
3 generations?
Champ is very, very proud of his son, David, and
rightfully so.
Sure, they're all watching out there in Milwaukee, Oregon at the bowling center.
Billy Hall trying to take advantage of that good break he had in the 5th frame. Trails in the match by 8 pins. Here it comes. Pretty shot. Boy, did he throw that one well.
Well, if he gets it a little bit right, he does seem to have a little hold area out there. Delays it a little bit.
Boy, he just has so much speed. See how tight that swing is? That left arm out. Square game. And that follow through right by the ear. You know right now this ball's dead flush. I like his game.
Well, we watched him under pressure last night, and he performed admirably. Was very confident, went up and made aggressive shots.
Well, he bowled Scott Devers earlier in the year in his only television appearance. He bowled 211 in that game and lost by about 12 pins, so he was right in the match.
And he also has a PBA regional title to his credit. He also gives it a touch more room and leaves a little bit, just a touch, doesn't quite get back.
Well, it gets back, but just not enough to carry. Either left the soft 10 or the hard 10 is Husted left. Now watch Billy now as he straightens the ball out, shooting this 10 pin. You might even hear it roll over the thumb hole. That's intentional, Dan.
Reminiscent of many of your strike shots.
Right, the Lone Ranger ball. Iowa silver.
Don't have to worry about that one hooking early. Meanwhile, Husted down by 1, so Hall is giving him all he can handle here in the opening match. Ooh. You can see that one grab and touch early. You knew it was going high. Fortunate that he didn't leave the 9 with it.
We're going to have a comparison of both these players. Look at Billy and see how far those dots you can see. Husted making the 4-pin. Now Dave Husted, and you see the difference. He gets it out, well, it's further than I thought. He's getting it out about 5 feet, I would say. So the difference is about 3 feet.
Difference between these two professionals in game number 1 of the LaMode Classic from Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Ron Williams next in line, Dave Ferraro, our number 2 seed, and Pete Weber on top of the field this week in Green Bay. Husted with an errant shot. You won't see him make many like that in the championship round, and Billy Hall's going to try and take advantage.
Right, he just got out of sync with that shot and didn't catch up in his timing. The ball just scooted right off of his hand. It's fortunate he didn't leave the washout. 1-2-8. Ought to be a relatively easy spare. No trouble.
So now it's a 5-pin lead. Husted gives away 3 pins and count. And for Billy Hall, who works on a spare here in the 7th, a double right now would go a long way.
Set him up in good shape, you know, and really put Husted in a hole. Although right now Billy Hall definitely has the upper hand. Definitely has that ball holding pocket all the way down on lane 16. Now, you can't do that as much on 15. It'll bite more on 15. But on 16, watch the ball. It just seems to hold pocket all the way down there.
How can it hook when it's in the air?
That's true. See, but right now, it's a little tighter line than the last shot on that lane. He's got a good reaction on 16. He gets to finish over there. Right here, though, and he sets him up south. 15 pins ahead with a double here.
Now, one of your average builders concerned getting the ball over the foul line. What you can do with the ball reaction.
Will he get it? Nope, it missed it. And basically what that does, Tim, when you get the further you get the ball over the line like that, it delays the roll of the bowling ball. It makes it skid further down the lane and doesn't do what the players call hook early. And we should mention, though, that where they're throwing the ball right now is in the hardwood of the lane. But if they get it over that hardwood to the pine, that's soft, and you don't want to do that. That's just past the arrows. Again, you'll rumble it down there for the 10 pin.
Oh, I like his spare shooting. Doesn't waste much time. Certainly doesn't miss any.
Here's the reaction to his first ball. He's saying, come on, come on. The fact that he didn't strike there means that Husted can close him out.
David not wasting any time in a pressure situation, steps right up and throws a very professional shot.
And it's interesting so far in just analyzing the match, as David calls for a re-rack on the left lane, it seems like the left lane has been the more difficult for the two players. The right lane seems to hold pocket a little better, but David finished higher and has the chance. That is not Michelle that I remember, Dave's wife's.
No, let's go for Bonnie Williams.
Right.
The wife of our number 3 qualifier.
Anyway, it's interesting. David had the choice and wanted to finish on the left lane.
Key shot for Husted, who stands up on it, and oh my, what a sweet adjustment. Doesn't get much better than that.
See, right now he's in a position to close the match out. He gets one more strike, and he's going to have Lock City with a decent count.
Took a good look at the score sheet before he stepped up in the 10th, so David obviously knows what he needs to finish things off here a little early.
And we should mention that strike gave him the lead. He's up by 5 pins right now.
A little more speed, a little more room, shakes him loose, and Husted from behind will end up the winner in match number 1.
Well, let's see, what's he going to need? 6 pins. But that's just the shot of a confident veteran player that has the ultimate confidence in his own abilities.
Well, anytime you see a player going a little bit right in a clutch situation, you know he feels like he's got a good reaction. Tell you what, could have ended up with 5 on that shot, but when you're rolling it as good as Husted is, you get a 9 count. So, a game of 232 for Dave Husted, and for Billy Hall, it'll be a 5th place finish, and he came within a whisker of winning the opening game.
He actually bowled an outstanding game and didn't get very much to show for it. That 10 pin he left in the 9th frame, just a key shot for him.
Dave Husted moves along. He'll take on Ron Williams. But before we get to match number 2, we'll talk about converting the 2-8. Stay tuned.
On last week's telecast, the 2-8 was missed 3 different times by 3 different players. So for this week's average builder, I thought I would take Denny's advice and see if we can find some reliable method of shooting this difficult spare. You see, the thing that makes the spare so hard to convert is that back pin. The 8 pin for right-handers and the 9 pin for lefters when they leave the 3-9. The ball has to get enough of that lead pin and be driving through strong enough to carry out the back pin, which is why I don't necessarily recommend shooting the spare from the left side of the approach, because what that actually does is reduce my angle going into the pin, and it means I have to get more of the lead pin in order to convert the spare. What I do recommend doing is shooting it off of my strike target, wherever that happens to be on the lane that night. The question is, how far to the right do I move from where I stood for a strike in order to convert the spare? Now, if it were the 2 pin only, I would move 4 boards to the right and shoot my strike target. But because I have to carry out that back pin, the 8 pin, I add 1 more board to the move, making the move a 5-board move. And if you bowl in bowling centers where there's a lot more oil in the center of the lane than there is on the outside, you might need to add 1 or 2 more boards to that move. Now, in this particular bowling center, with the inside edge of my left foot, I'm standing on board 16 and aiming at board 7 on the lane to get a strike. So I move 5 boards to the right over to board 11 and aim at the 7th board, and it should theoretically convert the spare. Let's see if I can do it. Stand on board 11, aim at board 7. Remember, 5 boards to the right, shoot your strike target, and that'll at least give you a fighting chance to convert this difficult spare. We'll see you again in Buffalo next week with another Average Builder.
Dave Husted coming up next here from Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay.
Orioles and the Mets battle the Giants, or in some areas the Indians take on the Tigers and the Expos face the Dodgers. Friday night, live on ESPN.
And don't forget, next week on ESPN, next Thursday night, the PBA Senior Touring Pro Doubles from Thruway Lanes in Cheektowaga, New York. For you geography fans, that happens to be Buffalo or thereabouts, live at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Dave Husted, coming off a 232-228 nail-biting victory over Billy Hall, has Ron Williams next in line.
And Ron Williams originally had picked a finish on the right lane and switched his pick.
Husted, who threw a couple of clutch strikes on the left-hand lane, opens up with the soft 10. And right at this point, too, we want to pass along our thoughts right now and prayers to a guy that's made this tournament so effective the last 4 years, the general manager, Dave Swagel, who had some surgery performed on Monday. David hopefully is resting a little bit at home. David, don't get up, jump around. We've had an exciting first match, but relax, please, so you can come back as soon as possible. Let Husted worry about the bowling.
And he was a little worried on that shot as he
Well,
almost missed the 10 pin, but the ball was just wide enough.
Interesting delivery here. This is the first time you've seen Ron Williams. But the result is the same. He throws a lot of strikes.
He throws a lot of strikes, and his follow-through goes on a trussed plane almost every single time. He doesn't pull a lot of shots. We got a problem here, and I don't know exactly what it is. Oh, we got a pin out in the channel, so we have to send someone down there to roll it back.
There's
See that pin right down there at the bottom of your screen? He shoves it back in there and will hightail it out of there.
PBA rule, obviously, you cannot throw a strike or a spare shot with dead wood in either channel.
He's hiding behind the photographer's screen right now. Ron Williams is waiting for him to do something.
Virtually no backswing. Ooh, 4-pin wiggles around a little bit, stands tall.
David rolling his hand over, indicating that he turned that ball just a little bit early, and he wasn't quite totally satisfied with that release, but only left the 4-pin. An easy conversion for him. Very little time, very little trouble with that spare.
Two-time PBA champ, won earlier this year out on the West Coast.
Worst shot he's thrown of the night so far, and it just looks like he's how should I say, just a little down from that first match. He was so pumped up in that 10th frame that he is just trying to get his rhythm back and his concentration back as we're early in the second match here.
Is that a difficult thing to do, Mike, when you have a pressure-packed opening game?
It can be, but I would think for a veteran player like Husted that he would just turn that game face back on. If he gets behind a little bit here, it'll definitely get his attention.
Dave Ferraro is our number 2 seed. He was the top seed here a year ago. And then Pete Weber, the talented one from Florissant, Missouri, is the number 1 seed player this week.
David's such a nice-looking young man. There's a fly on the lane, he said.
Well, you can either use it to aim at or try and shoo it away.
I don't know what he's going to do right now. That's up to our tournament director, Harry Golden. A fly on the lane.
Well, now the key question is, can we get a close-up of the fly?
David's going to take matters into his own hands.
Who would have ever thought, playing about the 7.5 board.
And we're sending Larry Lichstein out now.
Obviously, the fly.
Oh, we almost lost Lichstein there.
Well, the loudest applause of the evening for Husted winning over the fly. It sounds like a sequel. Obviously, the fly ran amok in the PBA lane conditioner.
proving to our players out there that there truly is oil on that.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's the instant replay. Does the fly move? Watch. The hand is quicker than the fly. And from the side. Okay. Well, one could say that Husted is a fly-by-night performer.
It definitely broke his concentration for that shot as he crossed Brooklyn and left only the 6-pin.
Good thing he wasn't flying by the seat of his pants.
How many of these can you come up with?
As long as you keep laughing, I'll keep trying. Meanwhile, back to live action on the right side of the 6-pin. A 3-pin lead right now for Ron Williams as we're in the early stages of match number 2.
And David is switching bowling balls. He just grabbed another ball and put it on the rack.
Ron Williams likes the one that he started the game with. That one rolls a little early. It's a cave-in shot, and the 10-pin remains.
Yeah, right now, this is just concentration. We've had some levity here and a break in the action and everything, and both players have lost their concentration. Cross lane at the 10-pin. I thought you were going to come up for some movie title for that fly. Ron Williams, a 4-step player with probably the most unusual arm swing on the PBA Tour. The elbow's tucked in now. He looks pretty conventional right here. Knees bent. Pushes it before he starts. It's in control right now. He's controlling the swing all the way through. The elbow goes into his side. Looks like he's ready, for a golf swing there. Turns the shoulders completely open, and then, but watch the follow through now. There he looks the same as anyone else at the point of release.
Well, it comes off rolling, I can tell you that. Excellent shot for Williams in the fourth. A good tight match here in game number 2. Ron Williams leads by 2. We'll be back with more of game number 2 after these messages. There, our illustrious director, guess what happens tomorrow to Kent Samuel?
I already know what happens to him tomorrow.
It's his
40-something?
40th birthday, and I thought he had more gray hair. He must be doing something. What do you think?
That's not too far away for you, Mr.
But he's been working 9 years with you, so that has to have done something to him.
It probably has. That's true.
Kent Samuel, one of the outstanding directors in network sports, certainly the best bowling director without question. And of course, Kent, Mike and I have decided that we will serenade you later at dinner with a happy birthday rendition.
Obviously. I can hardly wait.
Yes.
As David leaves a solid 10, looking for his first strike of the second match.
Had no trouble in game number 1, striking, that is. He shot 232. But as will happen, lane conditioner moving around just a little bit. The shot is changing. As though you see, we only have 2 strikes in 8 shots.
I think we're going to see a lot more in the last half of this game, I really do. David's still only 3 pins down, even though he's still hunting for his first strike.
It's a familiar position. He was down most of game number 1 to Billy Hall.
Looks a little better. Ooh. Well, the last 2 shots been as good as you can throw them, and 10 and a 7.
So then, even though you're not striking, you feel confident with the fact that you've made your adjustments. At least you're throwing good shots in the pocket.
You feel confident, but you're getting frustrated, too, because you're making these quality shots and not striking. As long as your opponent's not doing it either, then you feel like you're right in the match. But as soon as he starts carrying and you don't, trouble city.
It was interesting. I talked to Dave. I said, how much different are the lanes tonight during the championship round pair than they were 2 years ago when you won here? And he said, well, I was playing the 4th arrow 2 years ago. They're completely different.
Right. Well, conditions were a lot more oil that time, and again, they were playing 4th and 5th arrow that night.
For the double, Ron Williams now opens up a 14-pin advantage, and we're at the midway point of the second game.
Ron, a very steady player. He has a lot of confidence in his ability, too, and he's playing just left of the second arrow here. Ball comes in light, and the head pin does its work, getting out that 4-5-7.
Won his first title back in 1988, capturing the Budweiser Classic in Columbus, Ohio.
And we have another trouble is we have pins fallen on the deck of lane 16. Ron Williams is waiting for the mechanic to sweep them off and set up a new full rack on lane 16. And I really don't know what's taking so long for them to do that unless the machine is completely broken down and not working.
All right, Mike, so how do you pick up that spare?
Well, really, that wouldn't be that hard, Denny. You just hit anything down there, and they're going to fly around and make something.
Well, we've got a break in the action, so we'll talk football at this point. NFL preseason football on ESPN. Saturday, it's the Giants and the Houston Oilers live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
And I might mention, Denny, what our contingency plan would be if lane 16 becomes inoperative as they finally get it swept off. And we hope that 16 is repaired and working properly. But if it didn't, we would switch and use lane 14, and the pair would then be 14 and 15.
And one of the great trivia questions of all time concerns a PBA player who shot 300 during those circumstances.
Yes, I know who that player was, as Ron Williams is certainly finding out how to strike in that match. That player was Jim Stefanich. What was the years? 1973 at Alameda?
I'm going to say 74. Mel's 74. South Shore Bowl.
Right.
Lane broke down. He had to move to lane 14, or whatever lane it was to the left.
Now there's something else now happening here. Oh, it's a camera in the back. We're having our share of problems here tonight with the screen. There's a screen back there that the cameramen hide behind. so that the players won't see them, that the photographers can get their pictures, and you can see him putting the tape in place to hold the screen up against those poles.
That's our version of Hollywood Squares.
You said that once before, but not for the audience.
Where's Zsa Zsa? She's back there somewhere, isn't she?
Oh, I better not say what I'm thinking. So.
Boy, this has been an interesting night thus far. Husted backs off one more time.
Now he's waiting for everybody to settle down. How you could get your concentration together after all these distractions, I don't know.
Well, he's down by 24. Gonna have to get started pretty quick. And he gets a break this time as he strikes on 16.
And it wasn't his best shot of the match. It wasn't his cleanest shot of the match, but it did hit in the right place to get a strike. Now he wants, oh, now we're losing the pins again on lane 16. I'll tell you, Dennis, it's going to be up to our tournament director, Harry Golden, whether we continue to use lane 16 or whether he makes the decision that that's the end of that lane and we're going to go on 14 and 15.
Mm-hmm. How long will it take to determine that?
If the lane continues to break down, he'll just say that's enough.
Those are the pins on 16. Right now, Husted focused at the 10 pins on lane 15. If he strikes here, the match is cut to 14.
Nothing good is happening in this match. It's like he used up everything in the 10th frame of that first game. Pretty good shot here. In close to the third arrow. Watch the 6 pin. It's going to just go right around that 10. He's watching that target. Now he knows he needs this strike. The eyes are looking only at the 10 pin. And when you got to knock it down with the second ball and you're behind, that's trouble.
You make an interesting point there. When you throw a shot like that, you mean all you're doing is looking at the 10 pin? I always used to look at the pocket.
I meant as the ball's going down the lane, he knew it was going to hit the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at that point, he was only looking at the 10 pin.
No kidding. I never thought about that. That's interesting. After the re-rack, that one's a little right, comes back, and the messenger not going to deliver here, so Williams with a 10 pin in the 7th.
See, after you throw thousands of those shots or left thousands of those 10 pins, Denny, you know when they're going to stand or when they have a chance to stand.
Do
and
you?
So, yeah, sure, you can feel it the way it comes off your hand and the way the ball arcs, and you know, you get surprised a lot of times. It carries when you don't think it's going to, and you leave when you think it's going to carry, and stuff like that.
I'm going to talk to a couple other players and ask them when they let it go and they know it's going to hit the pocket if they're thinking 4 pin or if they look at the 10 pin. That never occurred to me.
Yeah, well, I just know what I used to do. Maybe I'm different.
Because you used to leave so many of them.
Right.
Good close match here.
23 pins, 3 frames to go. Husted's still alive, but the respirator is half unplugged.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Ron Williams trying to focus, get this handled. Doesn't want to let Husted back into the match, but with the dinner bucket on lane 15, he may just do that.
And he did something he doesn't do very often then. He let his elbow fly just a little bit and came over the top of that ball, and that's what he left. Got just about what he deserved on that shot. Now he's got a difficult spare. He's already only 19 pins ahead as his wife, Bonnie, looks on. That's the right wife with the right bowler. We don't want to cause any problems out here.
Nope.
Lost that ball and chopped it. Threw it straight at it, and he thought he had it. And he's let Husted right back in this match. The difference now is 8 pins.
New life for Husted. Meanwhile, Ron Williams will have to regroup when he stands up in the 9th. Husted wastes no time. Struck the last trip here on lane 16. Oh, he got all of that one. And the 6 pin kicks out the 10, so Husted is anything but dead here in the second game.
And now the biggest shot of the night so far, and really of the week, coming up for Dave Husted. He faced this same situation on this same lane in the 10th frame of the first game. We'll see how he responds now. A strike takes the lead.
And if he continues to strike, could close out Ron Williams. Could shoot a game of 225. Hard and straight. Oh, not the solid 8. Husted cannot believe it.
Boy, he knew that was just dead flush. See, in this one, as soon as he let it go, At this point, he's starting to move right now because he knows it's perfect. And, you know, whenever you leave those solid 8s, they just pop up there, and it's just a shock to you, especially in a pressure situation like that. Watch his eyes and his expression, and it's like somebody shot him.
Looked like somebody gave him a shot with a right hand right to the solar plexus there.
Ron Williams, though, is in the position with a double can win the match.
High all the way. You're right. 3-6. And Ron Williams, who had a pretty good shot on the championship round pair, the last 3 frames has struggled.
Yeah, well, bucket in the 8th frame, 3-6 in the 9th frame, and now we've got a pin on the deck that they're going to have to get off with a hook. They'll have a metal hook back there that they can reach in, or maybe he'll just stick down, jump down, and move it with his hand. I know Harry Golden is on the headset right now to his mechanic saying, get that pin off the deck. They got the hook. That's what they're going to do to you and I one of these days.
I was just going to say that. Oh, you were reading my mind, Coach. Well, meanwhile, Ron Williams trying to take care of the 3 and the 6. This one has tightened up considerably as we head now into the 10th frame.
And Ron Williams still with the upper hand because a double in the 10th frame wins him the game. 8 pins the difference, both on spares, both with 1 frame to go.
Dave Ferraro next in line. And then Pete Weber, our top seed, still to come here on ESPN.
High, 3-6-10. He needs to make this. As I take a look at the score, he needs to make this to make Husted mark. Right now, Dave Husted can win the match with a double.
Obviously, the major adjustment, he leaves the bucket on 15 on the last shot and goes up and tries to make what he feels is a good shot, and it hooks early.
And as the last 3 frames, he's totally lost. Tough spare here.
Kind of hung in there with it, so with a strike, he shoots an even game of 200.
Needs 6 pins to make Husted double in the 10th frame. He's looking at the score himself. Right here, he definitely straightens that shot out at those spares. It's got a weird roll to it. He looked at the score to make sure to find out what he needs to make David double in the 10th frame. And he got enough. Finishes with 199. Husted going at a 195 pace. Needs to do in the 10th frame what he did the first game.
Well, he's thrown 2 strikes the last 2 shots on lane 16. He needs a couple more.
It's whether he will carry. Not his ace shot. Not his ace shot. Now watch the follow through, Dan. Watch it. It's kind of a shotgun. See? He didn't really lift that. The ball's just kind of loping down there, but it hit right in the right place, and the 4-pin falls last.
You could see his body English, too. He wasn't going anywhere. He was waiting and wondering to see how that ball was going to react as he re-racks on lane 16 to buy himself a little time.
Needs the strike. And again, this is it can respond in these situations. See how weak this ball hits? The ball falls. Never hit the 5-pin. There was another pin that hit the 5, and something hit the 4.
A strike to advance, and it will not happen for Husted, who leaves the 2-4-5. Trusted it to the right, but this time the ball just didn't come back.
More speed, and it just didn't get up there, Den. He just didn't get himself together emotionally to make the quality shot.
So it's 199 to 195. Husted finishes up 4th after a game effort. And Ron Williams will advance to take on Dave Ferraro. Before we know about bowling news coming up next. Welcome back to Red Carpet Lanes, located in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for this week's edition of the Bowling News. And as a result of his tie for 35th this week, the current Player of the Year, Amleto Monticelli, continuing their bank accounts. Amleto has now earned nearly $175,000, which, believe it or not, is still some $40,000 behind his pace of a year ago. Meanwhile, Chris Warren is a close second, while Ron Palumbi, Brian Voss, and the defending champion in Green Bay this week, Jimmy Pensack, make up the rest of the top 5. Parker Bone III is doubling himself. He is now number 6 on the brand new list, while Robert Lawrence of Austin, Texas is 7th. Tony Westlake is holding down the number 8 position, and should either Dave Ferraro or Dave Husted win here tonight, they would eclipse the $100,000 barrier. On the amateur front, Team USA member Adam Apo of Hawaii turned in a brilliant performance in last week's Lee Evans tournament and 36-game all events while competing against top-flight representatives from 18 countries. And now here's a look at the rest of the winners from Miami last week. Good things happen to good people. Take Nick Moore creation and in the funding of the National Bowling Hall of Fame. Happy to report here at Bowling News that he has been named president of the Hall. A past president of the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, Nick has also been a longtime proprietor of a number of different bowling centers. So congratulations to Nick, and that's all the time we have for Bowling News this week from Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Bowling News has been brought to you by Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. Pizza Hut, making it great. Back in 1988, Ron Williams defeated Dave Ferraro to win his first PBA championship. Will history repeat itself? Come on back and find out. Other finishers this week, Mike Edwards misses by just 36 pins, and Chris Warren's number 2 on the money list.
And we got Brian Voss back in the finals. Wayne Webb finished 23rd, and Mark Fay from Chicago.
And the defending champion, Jim Pensack, failed to cash this week. And we're back to the semifinal game. Ron Williams, who survived game number 2, as he defeated Husted 199 to 195, now takes on Dave Ferraro.
Changed angles, moved outside. Interesting adjustment. I mean, he just was totally lost at the end of that second game and made a big move. He did not get practice balls on this pair in between. I should comment on that. Ferraro playing inside, though.
A gutsy move by Ron Williams pays off in the first. And Dave Ferraro, who has made 3 championship round appearances in the last 4 weeks, throws it right through the nose with the opening shot.
Of course, you never know. Lanes sometimes react different for different players.
I think that's one of the amazing things. You hit on game weights. Everybody.
We see Dave Ferraro, his 5-step approach, holds the ball. Now he pushes it pretty much right in time here. Look at the short backswing. And then very little slide. He heel toes the slide. Heel comes down first, and there is a slight slide. Ball goes out of the lane about 5 feet.
Good speed. Ball holds pocket, so Ferraro opens with a strike on lane 15. Ron Williams with a match play record of 15-8-1 this week. Averaged just 200.7 here on lanes 15 and 16 throughout the week.
Had his low game on this pair. What was it, 165?
Yep, he struggled on this pair. Oh my. That one's out the window, and he pays the price.
2-4-10. Well, you know, that's fresh territory out there. He didn't know what the ball was going to do. He's indicating that he didn't throw it well, that he went over the top of the ball. Making that motion several times tonight, that he's done that on his hand release. What the players are trying to do is stay behind it as long as they can. And, boy, I thought he was going to have a chance. The ball just didn't hook.
Well, when you're changing angles in the middle of a championship round, it's imperative then to make good, clean shots so you get some kind of ball reaction read.
Well, I thought that he made at least a decent shot on that. I mean, maybe he didn't think that he did. but I'm sure that he's going to move right the next time he gets on lane 16 if he still stays outside.
Again, plays out. Ball rolls up. How about some help? Messenger goes just to the left of the 10-pin, and disaster strikes here in the third.
And the scout didn't reach the fort on that particular one. He didn't get to the 10-pin, the 7 and the 10. We've seen this several times during the course of a summer telecast. Usually the 5-pin goes in front of the 7-pin or behind, and the head pin goes in front. Back-to-back opens, and we watch the replay, watch the head pin. It goes in front, and the 5-pin went in front. Both of them went in front, and then the head pin comes off and tries to get the 10.
Ferraro playing ins, trying to open up the lane just a little bit.
Well, he's just moving him to where he can find a little oil and get a consistent ball reaction. David can play anywhere on the lane, even though he probably throws the ball as straighter than anybody on the telecast tonight.
An extremely versatile player. It was funny, I talked to him last night. I said, David, where'd you play all week? He said, I played in. All the leaders played out. Maybe I was playing the wrong shot, but it worked for me.
Ball didn't feel quite right. He blew in that thumb hole. See what kind of shot he makes here. Soft 10. Again, that's probably because the ball didn't feel quite right in his hand.
Looked like the thumb went down a little bit early on that shot, didn't it?
Switches balls here to shoot the 10-pin.
So it's a spare up in the fourth for Ferraro, who leads here by 32 in game number 3.
Talk about all-star games. Take a look at this all-star video. Tell us your favorites.
Back to live action after a washout. Ron Williams.
And actually, what I should point out here, you see this ball shining, bite the lane. Whack ball and moves inside. This ball he's using right here. At least he hit the pocket with this shot. And he's
outside. The ball probably hooks early.
Right. You got it, Ben.
It's amazing, you know, the intricacies of the game. The balls all look the same, and yet they're all different. Guys are constantly moving and adjusting. And right now, Ferraro pockets. All he's got to do now is just kind of take care of business.
And the 4-8, not the easiest spare in the world. Approach, you know, he's moving right. He's going to throw hard and straight, right? Try and hit the 4-pin on the right. Normally, a lot of players will stay left. That'd be one time to shoot the 4-pin from the left side of the lane because you didn't want it to do exactly what this did, grab the lane and hook. And it's uncharacteristic of David to make a mistake in that situation to give his opponent any hope at all.
Well, he still leads by 30, but you don't want to play giveaway in a semifinal game when your opponent is struggling. Back with a good shot, but he leaves the soft 10. Strikes have kind of disappeared here.
Yeah, we've had 3 of them in this first half of this game.
Pete Weber waiting in the wings to bowl one game for $20,000 and his 14th title. Whoever wins this one matches up with Pete Weber.
Well, Ron Williams still has some life. He needs to get it together. Got a strike in that first frame.
Good buddy Alan Geeler on the right, Vice President of LaMode Activewear, and Gary Hartel from the Wisconsin BPA. 2 gentlemen very instrumental in making this such a marvelous event.
Well, if he'd have done this at the beginning of the game, he'd have been in the match. I mean, at least he's got the ball in the 1-3 right now.
Yeah, but he bowls the game, barely beats Husted, and realizes the last 3-4 frames of that opening game that he does not have a good shot. So, I don't know, do you hang in there and figure 190 is going to beat a Dave Ferraro?
Well, that's a good point. He made a bold move and it backfired.
The way things are going right now, I don't think he's out of this match.
He's not, but hindsight is always, 20/20.
Sure.
Comes back. At least he hits the pocket in the 5th and 6th frame.
You know, so many times, at least in the telecast that I've had the pleasure to work through the years, it doesn't seem as if the players move quickly enough in the championship round. But I guess you're right. It's individual preference is what you feel you have to do to get the job done.
Right now, all you can do is, his job is getting 9. He can't get that 10th one down.
That's what kills you. When you do finally make an adjustment, you do throw a good shot and hit the pocket, you don't carry. Carry was pretty good here this week. The scores were
decent all week long.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Scores were excellent at night. Lanes opened up a little bit. Guys could get it back and bank it a little bit. I know one thing. When you're down by 32 to this guy, you start looking for Harry Goldman, asking for the third place check.
Especially when you can't strike.
Yeah. Compounding the problem.
Well, the problem is getting worse for Ferraro. He keeps opening on this right lane. I see why he's picked to finish on the left, because he's struggling on lane 16. In the pocket, but leaves the 4-9. A makeable split, but certainly not easy. Right about the 13th board. It breaks a little sharp. Watch the 2-pin. Goes right around. Gets the 7. He's going for this.
Well, he should know how to get left to the 4-pin because he took the 4 off the 8 the last time around and opened. And now it's a 19-pin match. Mike, what's the difference between a strike and a 4-9? How close are you throwing a strike?
You're within a half a board, Dan. The ball has just crept a little bit high on the head pin, and it hits so hard that that 2-pin, as we saw, goes around the 4, and the ball chops the 5 off the 9. It actually finishes too strong. Years ago, when we used to have the solid wood block pins and you didn't have voids in pins, you never saw a 4-9. Of course, I'm dating myself there. Trouble. Man. 2, 4, 5, and the 5-pin's a little off spot to the right. This is definitely a choppable spare. And right now, Mr. Ferraro is spewing oil.
When you do leave something like this where the 5-pin is moved or a pin moves, does it distract your attention to the spare?
Well, if you let it. He didn't let it.
A game of survival. There you see a sigh of relief from Dave Ferraro, who is, at this point, just trying to get into the pits. He needs to change some rubber, huh?
Needs to get some oil back in the or something, I'll tell you. Just...
Oh, it's so easy from up here. So difficult when you're under the hot lights in the championship round. He's moved way in, and he strikes. Never say die for Ron Williams, who's hanging in there.
He's definitely hanging. He's bowling 160 and hanging in there. But if he strikes here, he really cuts the lead to under 10 pins and really puts the pressure on Ferraro. Finally gets his first strike since the first frame. And seems to have a good shot to the pocket. He's hit the pocket the last 4 straight balls. It's just a matter of whether he can get it in there and carry. A bit late, but it went.
So Williams, with a gutsy double in the 8th in the 9th, cuts it to 9 pins. Let's see now if Ferraro can answer the challenge.
Just couldn't do it. Tried to drill it with more speed in there, and the ball just hooks early on him on lane 16. At the 610. Has the spare. The best he can get is 191. He's up by 7 right now. Ron Williams controls his own fate as we see the scoreboard. Take that out. If Ron Williams strikes out, he finishes 194.
After 4 frames, Ferraro led by 43. How quickly it changes as David opts for a re-rack on lane 15.
Well, as we look at that score, Ron Williams went 6 frames without a strike, and right now Dave Ferraro has gone 6 frames without a strike to see if he can end the drought. Trips that 4 out of there, keeps himself alive. That makes Williams get the first one.
This is the key shot right here, though, right?
Well, no, actually, the key shots are going to be in Ron Williams' hand because even if Dave strikes out here, the best he can get is 191, and Ron can strike out for 194. So, I mean, this makes him get 1 more. Ron Williams already needs 1. If he gets this one, he'll need 2.
Better to post it and get it in the barn, though.
Well, that's true.
A good free swing and a beautiful, powerful strike provided by Ferraro. One more and he shoots 191. All he can do is sit back and wait and wonder.
And watch. I mean, a match that he had well in hand going into the 5th frame, but he opens in the 5th and 7th. Let Williams back in this match. Plus Williams switching balls and angles. Almost another solid 8. We could have a tie, Denny.
We don't need a tie.
No, I know we don't need a tie.
We're running a touch late as it is. Of course, coming up immediately following the championship round finals of the $130,000 LeMode Classic. Top Rank Boxing live from Boston, Massachusetts.
Will it carry? Yep. One more he needs. One more and 8 pins.
All of the sudden, the 10th frame rolls around and
these guys respond.
They just raise it to a different level. You have to. You don't survive out here if you don't strike in the 10th.
Well, and it changes from game to game. We saw Dave Husted respond in the first game and unable to do it in the second. Will it carry? Never a doubt. Yes, baby, yes. That's what she's saying there.
It's like Al Davis, win, baby, win. Wow.
Looks at the score, adds it up quickly in his head. 8 pins, and he's a winner. Right now, you're just looking to hit the pocket and leave any kind of tap.
Hangs on by the skin of his teeth. Ferraro loses 192 to 191. Both players totaled 5 strikes in 18 frames, and they threw 5 strikes in the 10th. And we see he gives us one more room. This could have left the bucket. He's saying, please, please. And we don't get to see it, but he got 8 out of it. 4-pin fell. That was the difference between winning and losing. When we return, only 2 remain here in Green Bay. The top seed Pete Weber and the challenger Ron Williams. Brought to you by Midas. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody. And nobody was going to beat Dave Husted in game number 1 against Billy Hall. Needed this strike, second one in the 10th, to shut out Billy Hall, who bowled an excellent game. Hall not even looking. Husted trusting it all the way, the veteran that he is, out about the 11th board. The ball makes the move here, gets just enough of the head pin. He runs it out. His reaction is, will you carry? Naturally. And it was a 232 to 228 victory for Dave Husted in match number 1. He would then advance to take on the number 3 seed, Ron Williams, and came down to the 10th frame again in game number 2. Same situation, but he didn't stroke the ball like he did the first time. More speed here. See him zip it and lift it, and it just kept sailing, never bit to come back, and went bye-bye, leaving the 2-4-5. So the final score in game number 2, 199 to 195. Ron Williams held on to win, and I guess that would be the best way to describe what he also did in the semifinal game. Ron Williams here with a key shot in the 10th frame. He's already gotten the first 2 strikes in the 10th frame, needs 8 to win the match by a pin. Gives it plenty of room, too much room. Is it going to come back? We don't get to see the 4-pin fall, but it did, leaving the 2-5, getting the 8 pins. Ron says, thank you. That's just enough. Thank you very much. 192 to 191. So Ron Williams advances into the title game against Pete Weber. Championship Frame has been brought to you by Midas and its dealers across the country. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody. Well, Bonnie is hoping all the way for a title here, but Pete Weber will be standing right in her way and in Ron's way as well when we return.
U.S. Open champion Hale Irwin and defending champion Greg Norman go for the green at the International. Friday afternoon live on ESPN.
Well, this is why everyone is here, and this is why we have a national television audience. It's the championship game here in Green Bay.
And Pete Weber's chosen to finish on the left lane, letting Ron Williams finish on the right, where he struck out there, or at least got 2 strikes and 8 to win the match.
Williams with the revamped angle and ball, starts it inside, strikes to open up the title game.
And I don't know what Pete Weber is going to do. He's played outside all week long, but boy, if I were he, I would be watching where Williams were playing those lanes and move in there.
Out of the gate, soft 10 for the top seed. Average 215.6 on this pair of lanes throughout the week. And had a brilliant week. Went 19-4-1 in match play. At one stretch, he won 10 consecutive matches. Won all 8 games in the second round of match play to vault into the lead.
And just left the field behind by over 300 pins. Blows in that thumb hole. Push way up a little higher now. So he gets it up here closer to his chin. Bends those knees. And leaves another 10 pin. That pin's going to come up short, or at least won't hit it hard enough. He says, "No, don't you fall."
Peter trying to wave it off a little bit there, and obviously very pleased with his performance this week. He has been in a slump, make no mistake about that, as makes the 10 pin by a freckle.
By a freckle or a hair.
Not by much, in other words.
Yeah.
Getting back to that point, though, he's had a very difficult year. Just has not had a good year at all, and was just tickled to be the top seed.
Only made $38,000 this year, which for some players would be all right, but for Pete Weber, as he trips the 4 and the 10 out of there. Finish that thought. It's not a good year for Pete Weber, but this is a good strike for Ron Williams. As he gets the ball in a little bit more, he's right around that 3rd arrow. Now watch the 2 pin, and if you can, the other eye, see the 10 pin fall. They both fall right together.
Now, how are you going to watch both of those?
Well, I don't know.
Watch the 2 pin with one eye and the 6 pin with the other.
There we see the winner gets 10,000 here.
Well, should I look at the
Or
top
20,000.
number or the bottom number? Ron Williams is thinking only of one number, 300, and then maybe 20,000 to follow it.
That's the number he's thinking of, and number 3 is what he's thinking of for 3 titles.
Pete Weber with 13 career championships, one of only 3 players to win the PBA's Triple Crown, joining John Petraglia and Billy Hardwick. Right now, he's going to need to summon all that experience, and he slashes the rack and strikes in the 3rd frame. We're a long way from finishing this one.
Big strike coming up right now. He needs to strike and put pressure on Ron Williams. As we see his Triple Crown, 87 Firestone, 88 U.S. Open in Atlantic City, and then the PBA National in Toledo, Ohio.
Didn't take him long, did it?
No. 3 successive years. It's just amazing a player that young could do that much.
Youngest player ever to win 10 PBA championships. The list goes on and on. Right now, he'd give a lot of it for a double, and he dances it out. So Weber says, "Hey, hold on, I've got a double here. I'm trying to climb back into this one."
And watch, he really stroked this ball. See it just revving up. Watch the 6 go, and just enough to get out the 10. And he's looking at the 10 all the way. Gives it his Hulk Hogan routine.
Well, he's thrown 4 shots in the pocket. He has 2 strikes. Meanwhile, Ron Williams trying to make it 4 in a row.
Probably moved a half a board or so in the approach after tripping that 4 out so high and came up just a little bit light. I know whenever I tripped the 4 pin or left it or something like that, I would fudge just a little bit left. Half a board or so.
Why wouldn't you just throw a little harder?
Well, that was another move, but speed control was not the ace weapon of me. Moving my feet, I was better at.
Well, you have to do what you do best. Ron Williams leads by 10. And our first 3 matches have been decided by a total of 9 pins.
What's interesting, though, is that Ron Williams has won 2 matches here and has yet to shoot 200.
Just goes to show you that an even par score sometimes is plenty good enough to win.
Not too often, though, Dennis.
He's averaging 195.5 for the championship round. That's way right. Almost left the 2-4-5, ends up with just the 2-5.
And again, he gives it that motion where he went over the top of the ball with that hand. Fast, he was reading his lips there. Guys are always doing that. They're analyzing every shot that they've just thrown. Now he needs to just get his attention on making this spare. Hard and straight, no trouble.
You ever use a lot of self-talk, Mike?
Oh, every bowler, I think, uses a lot of self-talk. The fight, Dennis, is to keep the self-talk positive and not get down on yourself and get it negative.
A double in the third and the fourth, trails by 8, could lead for the first time in this one with a strike in the fifth.
Oh, high trip. Puts him right in the match. That gives him a lead. There's Nicole. Boy, is she pretty.
Pretty excited.
This gives him a lead by 2 pins with that tremendously high backswing. The ball is making that left turn, just like every shot that you ever threw.
He's got that inside a target now. Don't tell me he didn't. That's a couple boards inside, don't you think?
Well, there's a little bit inside, but it still held. I mean,
oh, yeah.
We've seen lane 16 hold all night long.
Yeah, let's see if he can make it 4 in a row. Stretches out, likes the shot, and the hammer is provided by Weber, who has stormed back to take a 12-pin lead.
And we'll see if all this running around on the approach intimidates his opponent at all, or whether Ron Williams is just not paying any attention, and he's going to give him right back with some strikes of his own. Now, what we said to Pete Weber when he got his first double, that it was a big shot for him. This is a big shot for Ron Williams right now to put some pressure back on Pete Weber, cut the lead to 2 pins. Throws an excellent shot here. Ball hits half pocket, snaps out that 10-pin. I like his reaction. It's businesslike. The next one's the real important shot. The old bucket crumbler.
A bucket crumbler in the 7th. And now this one flips back. And Weber now leads by 2 as he enters the 7th frame, working on a 4-bagger.
Boy, we've had some good matches here tonight.
Excellent matches.
Outstanding TV record there by Petey Weber.
But he is 3 and 8 from the top seed position. Oh my, that was a sweet shot there, Mike Irvin. That's maybe the nicest shot he's thrown tonight.
Well, he's just stroking the ball so pretty. Every shot is just clean off the hand. And the ball just is making so many revolutions without that added effort. I mean, it's just very pretty to watch. Well, watch this 5-step approach and the height of this backswing. Now watch the hand release. Oh, just a pretty follow through there. He's looking at it at the 10-pin, and he kicks it over. Couldn't kick it hard enough that time.
Not this time. The 10-pin stands, and Petey a little upset with himself. He's hit the pocket 8 consecutive shots, has 3 10-pins.
3 10-pins and 5 strikes. He's right in the match.
You know, it's amazing. A player of his caliber makes that little adjustment in ball position to start, and it sets up that world-class timing that he's had his whole life.
Well, it probably also triggers the confidence. I mean, the feel starts to come back, and then you start to believe in yourself again.
And when you have that kind of ability and the confidence starts to rise, watch out.
Williams down by 11. Cuts it to 1. That right lane's just holding pocket all the way. What a match here. 230 to 230 right now. 1 pin counts. 8 for Weber, 7 for Williams.
Many years Ron Williams bowling out of the Midwest region. Of course, Petey Weber grew up there. These guys have tangled before.
Well, Ron Williams isn't afraid. You can see that. Weber's not intimidating, and neither is the name. Foundation. Boy!
Fans really appreciating what's taking place here this evening.
Good speed. Excellent clean release. All 10 pins in the pit. Weber now, 9th frame, has to respond.
Good speed. Perfect shot for Weber, who, if he takes it off the sheet, will end up with a game of 258.
But if I'm adding right, that won't be enough to lock out Mr. Ron Williams. I'm having trouble adding all these strikes. We haven't had these.
Yeah, could be 267 to 258, and believe me, Ron Williams very much realizing where his Weber opts for the re-rack on lane 15.
Weber for the lead with this strike. Will it carry? Yes!
Oh, look at the glare in Pete Weber's eyes.
That's the fire and the fight of a champion right there. That's inherited genes.
All right, let's set up the scenario. If he strikes here, he forces Williams to double, right?
Forces Williams to get 2, right? Anything can happen. In the 250s.
Oh, he's back in a big way. A game of 258 if he strikes here, but will it be enough?
If I'm adding right, he needs 9 pins to make Williams get 2 strikes in the 10th frame.
Oh, that's what a year without winning will do to you. He has performed like a champion here this evening, and he finishes out with a solid 10 pin.
257. There won't be a tie, Denny.
We haven't time for a tie. Top Rank Boxing coming up next.
Well, Ron Williams did it last game. Can he do it for the title? More speed. And it held. Woo! I'll tell you what, Denny. Professional bowling doesn't get any better than this game. This is it. It comes down after 42 games all week, after 130 some players in the tournament. After all these match games, it comes down to 1 shot. Too much room.
And Pete Weber right now thanking his lucky stars that Williams couldn't come up with the shot that would ice it. Pete Weber, $20,000 richer, but I'll guarantee he lost a couple of days somewhere in between.